Hello, my friends. One of my favorite genres of books are crazy, weird girls. So this week I'm reading 4 books about obsession. I have 4 books picked out, one of them being A Touch of Jen. This is about this couple who become obsessed with their ex coworker after she becomes an influencer. And eventually they run into her and she invites them to hang out, I think go on a vacation. And I have a feeling this is going to be like they got extremely parasocial, and then she is not who they built her up to be in their head. So, very excited about that. I'm also going to be reading Hysteria, which is about a girl who convinces herself that her bartender is Sigmund Freud. And I am guessing that she's going to trauma dump on him and then force him to help her through a whole bunch of her issues. And it's not going to be healthy or good or helpful. Not that having Sigmund Freud as a therapist would be particularly helpful, but that's neither here nor there. I'll also be reading Malagash, which is about this family who decide to move back to their father's hometown because he is dying. He wants to die where he grew up. And in her grief, his daughter creates a computer virus of his consciousness so that he's able to live on forever. Lastly, I'll be reading Waif. This is about a girl who has a perfect life, a perfect husband, wealth, everything she needs, but runs into her like dream man at the grocery store, and this kind of just derails her life. She becomes obsessed with him, and it leads her to become involved in like underground plastic surgery and porn and a girl gang. I already finished Waif, and that's not what it's about. So I am going to get into spoilers, so if you do want to read this book, there are timestamps in the description so you can hop to my thoughts. So this book is not about her obsession, it is about her husband's obsession, but I am already jumping ahead of myself. So this book is about Angie, and instead of having a perfect life with a perfect husband and wealth and everything she could ever want and dream, she is married to an abusive piece of shit named Matt and is fearful of indulging in the wealth that came from this marriage because of how shady it is, and she kind of feels like she doesn't deserve it. Like she's scared to indulge in that because she knows she could lose it at any moment. So, right off the bat, first line of the description on the back of this book, incorrect. Angie and Matt get in this huge fight, and she leaves to go for a drive to clear her head. She goes to the grocery store. It's like the middle of the night. And while she's there, she sees this man who she has been imagining. He is like her perfect man. It is who she pictures in her fantasies. So she immediately becomes obsessed. He asks her if she knows where the marshmallows are. She leads them because she goes to this grocery store a lot. She's very familiar with it. And she's like a little bit flirting. She's like, I love this man already, and notices he isn't wearing a ring, but mentions that the marshmallows are for his pregnant girlfriend. And this destroys her. She's like, no, how could he be married? He is mine. He is meant for me. So she follows him after he leaves the grocery store to rifle through his mail to figure out what his name is so she can like keep tabs on him. Eventually, she goes back home to Matt. It is like early morning, like 5 or 6 a.m., and he's like, "Where have you been?" And she's like, "I took a drive and I went to a diner and then I fell asleep in the parking lot." And he's like, "I know you're lying. Come here so I can smell you. I know what you smell like after sex." And she's like, "No, you cannot do that," because she also knows that that means he wants to have sex with her. And she's like, it's too early for me to get drunk and I can't stomach having sex with him if I'm sober. Sign of a very healthy relationship. So she like stands her ground seemingly for the first time. We don't exactly know this, but that's kind of the vibe it's giving. And they're kind of in a little bit of a standoff, and she goes, "You're right, I did lie. I didn't go to a diner and fall asleep in the parking lot." He, of course, thinks that this means she had an affair and slept with someone, and she's like, "No, but I did run into this man, and he is my perfect man, and you could never be him." This clearly angers him. He slaps her, she goes to bed, he goes to brood like an abusive man would. Eventually, he calls her into his office and is like, "Tell me everything about this man. Tell me all of his physical attributes because I'm gonna get plastic surgery to look exactly like him." And she's like, okay, thinks that this is just a temporary thing and indulges him, tells him all about how he looks and also how she imagines he looks for parts that she didn't see. She says that he has hairless thighs because she hates that Matt has really gross, hairy thighs, I guess. And this makes him angry, but he's like, okay, this is what I have to do. Angie is like, he's not doing this because he cares about me. He's afraid of losing me because that means he doesn't get everything he wants. He is doing this selfishly. So he goes to every plastic surgeon in a 100-mile radius, and they all say something along the lines of, no, I'm not cutting you open. You clearly have body dysmorphia, and I'm not doing this. Or, I'm not doing plastic surgery to help with your marital problems. And this makes him mad because no one has ever said no to him in his entire life. During all of this, Angie is stalking Ben, the man that she saw at the grocery store. She follows him around and figures out where he typically fills up gas before work sometimes. So she kind of plants herself there, pulls into the pump behind him, and is like, oh my god, hey, do I know you from somewhere? And he is clearly put off by this. He's like, no, I don't think so. And she's, no, you're the marshmallow guy. And he takes a second and is like, oh yeah, that's, you have a crazy memory. Yeah, that is me. She's like, okay, so yeah, like, what do you do for work? And he is clearly super uncomfortable. He starts moving back towards his car and he's like, I'm an accountant, I'm in finance, I gotta get going. She's like, that's such a crazy coincidence. My father-in-law owns this incredibly successful hotel chain, and they're looking for a new finance person. And he is familiar with the hotel chain and hands over his card because he's like, yeah, that'd be a big paycheck, a big commission. And she gets the card and she's like, shit, now I have to give this to my husband who knows that I want to be with this man. And, like, she just clearly wasn't thinking it through. She's just saying whatever she can to have a longer conversation with Ben. This leads Matt to just completely lead Ben on. He will call him, talk to him, put him on hold for 20 minutes, hang up, call him back, put him on hold for another 20 minutes, just waste his time, make him do a whole bunch of free work. And Ben is just hoping that eventually Matt will hire him. And Matt is having so much fun with this because he's a terrible person. And because he blames Ben for making his wife not want him anymore. Not the fact that he hits his wife. No, that's not the problem. The problem is that she ran into this hot man at the grocery store. Eventually, Matt finds a plastic surgeon who will completely reconstruct his face and body to look like Ben. And this is not a above board plastic surgeon. This is a man who does stuff underground, and it's related to specialty porn he also creates. So he takes his wife out to dinner with this man, and they tell her the plan. And Angie is like, she's like, this, I didn't expect it to come to this. I thought once everyone said no to him, he would give up on this. She tries to tell him that even if he looks like Ben, that's not going to change anything. She still hates him and wants Ben. He's so caught up in this that he does not care. He's so obsessed with this. And even after talking about concerns, Angie asks to see this surgeon's portfolio, and he's like, my clientele would not like that. It's very secretive. So she's kind of like, well, I can't talk him out of this, so whatever. Go for it, I guess. So Angie gets to go with Matt to his first surgery. They go to this secret meeting place, and they're given code to try to figure out where the house is where the surgery is. They get there, they have to go through all these things, like knock on the door 3 times and then go in through the side door. It's super convoluted because it's so secretive and illegal. They get there, they take Matt in, and Angie is immediately like rushed out the door, like, okay, see you later. While she's there, she meets this woman who has like mermaid scales on her stomach. I'm assuming it's like a scarification situation. And she's like, yeah, the surgeon is, he created this masterpiece. He's so talented. He's in great hands. And so she leaves. Eventually, Matt comes back, and oh my lord, his face is mangled. And he's kind of just like, yeah, well, it takes time. They're turning me into a new person. And she's like, okay. He gets 2 more surgeries, and every time he comes back looking worse. He's covered in bandages. He has giant like keloid scars across his face, just clearly it's not working. And Angie is like, Matt, you need to stop. This damage has gone so far, they're not going to be able to fix it. It's not going to get better. You need to stop. And he's just like, you don't get it. You don't get it. You need to give it time. It's not going to happen all in one go. And he's mad at her for caring about him. I'm mad at her for caring about him. It's a whole thing. He goes away for another surgery, and after a week, he doesn't come back. So Angie is really worried. She's kind of like, well, they wouldn't kill him, but also this is underground surgery. So if something goes wrong, they're not calling 911. They're going to let him die. So she goes back to where this underground surgery is happening, and she runs into the same woman as before. And she's like, what are you doing here? And Angie is like, I'm trying to find my husband. I haven't heard from him in like 2 weeks. She's like, well, he's not here, but you should come out with us so we can explain some things. And she goes with Rena and Jameson to this bar with a couple other girls who work with the plastic surgeon in the like aspect of it. The surgeon's name is Mince. Don't let a man named Mince cut into you. They go to this bar. The girls are just kind of talking. They're not explaining anything to her. She's there just sitting politely and kind of just waiting for people to get into it. She hints that she wants to learn more, and Jameson has Rena go turn up the jukebox to a louder song so people won't overhear them. While Rena is over there, a man starts like assaulting her. He pins her up against the wall and starts putting his hands up her shirt. And instead of calling 911, Jameson kind of nods at the bartender. He locks the doors, and all of the girls in this bar, because everyone else in this bar is girls, crowds around and starts beating the shit out of him to the point of near death. And Jameson is like, hey, Angie, we should go outside and chat. And Angie is like, what the fuck is happening? So they go out to talk. They're still beating this man up. They most definitely kill him. And they're behind the bar. And Jameson is like, I'm not supposed to be telling you this, but someone far more wealthy than your husband has been asking for a film where Mince mutilates a man beyond repair. And Angie is like, oh no, that's terrible. And then nothing comes of that. That does not get brought up again the rest of the story. Not even a little bit. Cool. I would have loved to learn more about that. Anyways, Angie goes back home and she kind of just lives the life of not having a piece of shit husband. She lets the house get a little bit of a mess. She's not constantly going to the grocery store to make sure it's stocked with all the things he likes and loves and wants, and just kind of like chills for a couple days. After a little bit, she hears a knock on the door. She assumes it's Matt, so she goes to answer it and she sees Ben. She's like, oh my god, Ben, what are you doing here? And in her monologue is like, wow, I wish I brushed my hair. And Ben is like, no, it's Matt, but you can call me Ben if it makes you feel better. And she's like, oh my god, how did Mince do this? How do you look so much like Ben? You even sound like Ben. And he starts like making out with her and, you know, doing things. And she's like, no, this isn't how I imagined. You're being too aggressive with this. You're not caring about me. And he ends up having sex with her. And she afterwards is upset because she's like, no, you were supposed to be nice and kind and caring. And instead you had sex with me just like my husband did. And then she hears like cackling. And her mangled husband comes in and he's looking worse than ever. His thighs are like dripping blood because they're covered in sores that he keeps scratching at. His face is covered in bandages, but like is clearly all messed up. And she is like, oh my god, this is actually Ben. And so now her illusion is fully shattered. Like, Ben is not the person that she has been imagining him to be. And she's like, you just raped me. And he's like, no, I didn't. This is what you wanted. This is why you and your husband are paying me. And she's like, paying you? And Matt, like, orchestrated this thing. So obviously Angie, she is upset and yelling at both of them about how horrible of an interaction this just was, how she was just assaulted. Angie threatens to tell Matt's girlfriend, and he's like, no, like, I need the money. You told me that you would never tell her about this. Like, why are you going back on what you said? Like, you're paying me. Matt is cackling, he's laughing, he is enjoying how much she is suffering in this. So she tells Ben to grab her, and Ben does that. He holds her down, and Matt comes over with a shard of like porcelain of like a lamp, I think. I think Angie threw a lamp at him or something. So he brings that over and starts cutting into her, and she passes out. We don't know how many days later or how many hours later or whatever happened, but she wakes up on an operating table in a basement, and clearly Mince came and got her. When she comes to eventually, Mince is like, yeah, they were gonna kill you. So I was like, what's the harm in me just taking you? And then she'll be out of your hair and you won't have to kill her. And the two men are like, that sounds like a good plan. We never hear from Ben or Matt again for the rest of the story, which is upsetting because his underground surgery and mutilation was my favorite part of this book, and I wanted more of that, and it just ends. Well, Mince, like, patched her up from the assault. He also cuts off some of her fingers and is like, now you're perfect for the porn that I make, and traffics her. She fully welcomes this. She is like, yeah, this is cool. I've always been a little bit gay, but too much shame surrounding that, so I'm perfectly fine having sex and creating porn with these women. This is actually really cool and freeing for me. Weird. She creates a really close friendship with Rena and does most of her scenes with her. They get invited to do, I think, what they call a sweet scene, which is something that is far more intense than the normal scenes that they do. Something that is asked for by a client that is trustworthy and has already given a lot of money and is willing to pay a lot of money for. Once you do a sweet scene, you kind of get more perks than the other girls. You get your own home to stay in, and you have to do less scenes because you made all this money. And Rena's like, we should do it. I also don't think they're allowed to say no. They've been trafficked. And eventually Angie gives in. She's like, okay, what's the scene? And it's necrophilia. So they are told that they're going to bring in a dead man and they're going to create a scene with him. And she's like, what if we don't? What if we just run away? Like, I don't want to do that. And Angie is like, well, that's what Jameson is here for. She kills him. And so, like, there really was no back and forth that had to be had. They have to do the scene or they will die. So Angie goes to Jameson and is like, I want to run away. I don't want to do this scene. And Jameson is kind of like, do you know what happens after the sweet scenes? And she's like, yeah, we get to live a life of luxury. That's how trafficking works. And Jameson is like, no, you get killed. Mince kills you because there can't be this video of you committing a serious crime just out and about and you still existing and the capacity of it to tie you to Mince. Like, yeah, we say that you girls get, like, put away into a nicer place and you do less scenes, so they're not suspicious when these girls go to these scenes and never come back. And she is like, okay, I need to run away then. Can you help me? And Jameson is like, if you join the gang, I'll help you. And Angie's like, what are you talking about? What gang are you part of? I don't know what's happening. And it turns out that when they were at the bar earlier and those girls just killed that man for assaulting Rena, that is like her gang's haunt. Her gang is called the Waifs. I don't know if it is like a girls vigilante group where they kill bad men or if they just kill all men. I also don't know why she is the muscle for this secret underground plastic surgery trafficking ring. That doesn't really make sense with her character, but I'll let it be. Jameson gives Angie a gun and is like, to join my gang, you have to kill a man. So eventually it is time for the scene. She's there, Jameson is there because she is the muscle. Mince is there because he films all the scenes, and Rena is there. Rena has no idea what's about to go down. She is ready to have sex with a corpse and then live a life of luxury. She doesn't even know that she's supposedly getting killed after this. Angie told her nothing. As they're setting up the shoot, Jameson is like, oh my god, Mince, you have something on your neck, let me get it, and kind of just holds Jameson still, and it's Angie's cue to kill him. So she pulls out the gun, shoots him in the head. It doesn't kill him. Jameson grabs the gun from her, goes to finish him off, and Angie is like, no, let me do it. and then like enters a few rounds into him, I'm pretty sure. Rena is freaking out, and they're all like, oh my god, we have to go before the police get here. And they all leave. They explain to Rena like what was going down, and I'm pretty sure they drive off into the sunset happily ever after. If more happens after that, I don't remember. This is a pretty short novella. It's like 120-ish pages, so I got through it fairly quickly. And do not get me wrong, I did enjoy it. I thought it was fun. I thought it was cool. I am upset that it is not about Angie's obsession with this man. It is more about her husband's obsession with trying to look like this man. And I'm sad that we dropped that storyline like 75% of the way through, and it radically switched to underground porn and honestly sex trafficking. I wish it stayed with the original storyline. I thought that was far more interesting and weird and cool and fun. I liked the bad man having bad things happen to him. I didn't like the victim to become an even bigger victim. Yeah, no, I wasn't super into that part. I understand why people like this book, and I do think it was good. I thought it was a fun read, and it was quick. It was an easy read. It easy in the sense that it was quick to get through, not easy in subject matter. This is definitely a book to check trigger warnings for because it is kind of gross. A lot of bad things happen. I wish that it was just about underground plastic surgery and maybe like gore films that he made, not weird. I think that would have been far more interesting and enough pages to fully explore that. When we switched to the plot about the gang and the trafficking, I didn't know enough about it to only have 25% of the book be about that. I wasn't engaged in that part of the story because we barely touched it, if at all. I'm gonna say this is 3 stars, which is so upsetting because I really wanted to love it. I based this video around this book because I was so excited to read it. It's been on my Kobo for a hot minute. And yeah, I'm disappointed. I wanted it to be more. I wanted it to be better, but I can see it really being a hit for some people. I think tonight I'm going to pick up Hysteria. I'm very excited for this book. It's less than 200 pages, so it is another fairly short one, but I feel like it is less ambitious than Waif. It is covering less topics, so hopefully it'll be more fulfilling. I'm excited to read about a girl who is seemingly losing it a little bit, convincing herself that her bartender is Sigmund Freud. That sounds so fun and crazy. Also, I'm a Sigmund Freud hater. I hope we all know that Sigmund Freud is bad, right? I finished Hysteria. This book was not what I expected it to be. It was far more about fraught relationships with her parents, which it's about Freud. I really should have expected that. So this book is about an unnamed main character. She is fresh out of college in her first year of teaching and like a little bit of a hot mess. She feels her emotions to the extreme. She's either loved or hated, and she either loves or hates people. Every criticism she receives fills her with like immense pain, and every compliment sends her like sky high. There's no in between. She is a regular at this bar that she likes to go to grade papers for school. She'll give herself a little treat of a sip of her drink after every page, and usually by the end, when she's graded everything, she's a little bit tipsy, which the teachers I know, that feels so accurate. When she goes to like the back patio area to grade her papers, she sees this hot dude smoking a cigarette and is just filled with lust. So she goes over, bums the cigarette from him, and then they go into this like dark alcove where she goes down on him. Afterwards, she is sobbing, and he's like, "Why are you crying? I didn't make you do that. You can't say I made you do that." Calls her crazy and like leaves the bar with his friends. And she never said he forced her to. She is very silent and isn't even thinking that. She doesn't really know why she's crying. After this, she's filled with shame from going down on him and also his reaction afterwards, that she pounds her drink, she goes inside, she's clearly been crying, and her normal bartender isn't there, and it's this new man she's never seen before. She sits down at the bar. She's like, this man is familiar. He's got like a thick mustache, a big beard, and he pours her another drink. She's being like, how do I know you? What do I know you from? You're so familiar. Who do you look like? And he just kind of ignores that and then points to like a security camera thing display with different areas from the bar and is like, I saw you. And she freaks out. She's like, you're disgusting for watching that. And at the same time, it's like, what could you've even seen? It's a dark alcove. He probably just saw me like go back there with this man and doesn't actually know what happened. But at the same time, is like berating him. And he's just kind of like, how do you feel about that? And she's like, why does it matter what I feel, you dirty pervert? She doesn't say that. And he's just kind of asking her to interrogate her feelings around him saying that he saw her, and is also like, did you want to be seen? Why did you do that? And just very stereotypical therapist questions. She's pissed. She goes to leave, and he's like, no, don't leave yet. Wait. And then writes a note on a napkin and hands it to her. She refuses to look at it in the same way she is refusing to look at her phone. She knows that she has been invited to a dinner party by her parents that she doesn't really want to go to. It's a weekly thing they do with their colleagues, and she doesn't like going, but she knows that her parents will be incredibly disappointed if she doesn't. She also knows that her roommate has invited her to their friend's party, and she doesn't really want to go to that either, but going to that would be a good excuse to not going to her parents' dinner party. So she's avoiding looking at her phone. She's avoiding looking at this note until she finally gets home. She opens up the note and it says, come back. And so she is so curious. She feels like she needs to go back. But she's like, no, I have all these other things that I have to do. She goes inside. She tells her roommate Jojo that she will go with her to this party, and she gets ready. She goes inside to get ready for this party. She puts on this oversized shirt that she wears as a dress and some heels, and they go out. She's having so much fun with Jojo on the way out, and she gets a text from Jojo's brother Sam, who she had slept with the night before, but she doesn't tell Jojo because sleeping with your roommate's brother is off limits. Jojo is like, oh my god, we should invite Sam to come to this party. And Jojo's like, no, absolutely not. Except doesn't say that. She's like, no, I think I'm only going to stay for an hour and I would hate to invite him. And then he shows up and I'm not there. They get to the party and our main character sees a man that she slept with in college. Now, she is a very promiscuous woman, which you probably could infer from going down on a man at the bar in public. This embarrasses her because she kind of had a reputation in college for sleeping around. We see this throughout the book too, where she will sleep with someone and then immediately be disgusted by them. She will ghost them, avoid them at all costs, and is generally like pretty nasty to them afterward. Well, at this party, she sees that everyone else is wearing sneakers and she's in heels, and she just feels disgusted by herself. She's like, all these people are laughing at me. They think that I'm trying too hard, and I am trying too hard, and I'm embarrassing and terrible. And we see her do this throughout the book. She very much feels in extremes. Well, at this party, she is standing in the corner, wallowing in her self-pity, just pounding vodka lemonades, and she sees this bartender who she has decided is Sigmund Freud. She has kind of been fantasizing about Sigmund Freud since she was a child. While she was a child, she was at one of these dinner parties with her parents and their colleagues, and someone says something along the lines of like, don't be so Freudian, and they start talking shit on Sigmund Freud, rightfully so. And she's like, what's Freud? And her parents are like, oh, it's this man who created psychology, but his ideas were bad. No one does his type of therapy anymore. And no one likes him, essentially. And her dad like pulls out a book about Sigmund Freud that has his picture on the cover, and she immediately feels a kinship with him because she thinks that her parents don't love her and don't like her and are embarrassed by her. Her parents, despite being cognitive behavioral therapists, did not do a good job creating a like emotionally fulfilling childhood for her. Her parents are both very emotionally cold, and her father physically as well. So he never hugged her as a kid. He never held her. He would occasionally put his hand like on the back of her neck, and that is the only physical affection she remembers from him. And she craved this physical affection from him. She would like rest her head on his shoulder with the hopes that he would do the same, and just things like that. And this really messed her up. Her mom also seemed cold, but it didn't seem to affect her in the same way. After she sees Sigmund Freud, she sees Jojo go to the door of the house and let in her boyfriend and her brother. And her main character is immediately furious about this. She goes up to them and is like, I need to borrow you for a second, and grabs her arm and pulls her away and is like hurting her from grabbing her arm so tightly. And Jojo is like, what are you doing? And she's like, how dare you invite him? I told you not to invite him. She's like, he's my brother. Like, what are you talking about? I'm allowed to want to hang out with him. I'm allowed to invite him places. And she storms off, and Jojo is like, really, you're just gonna walk away? So our main character goes up to Jojo's brother Sam and takes him upstairs and starts to have sex with him. And in the middle of it, she's like, pull my hair, hit me harder. And he is not into it. He's like, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to hurt you. And she's like, yes, you do. And he's like, what are you talking about? Offended by this, and kind of storms out. Our main character is again filled with shame. She leaves. She is incredibly drunk. She doesn't say bye to anyone and gets on the bus to go to her parents' dinner party. She checks her phone. She has missed calls from them, but instead of calling them and being like, I'm on my way, or even beforehand, just being like, hey, I'm gonna come late, she just shows up on their doorstep. And her father opens the door and looks at her and goes, that's quite short, talking about her shirt that she's wearing as a dress. And she cycles between anger of, I am a grown woman, I can wear what I want, how dare you talk to me about my outfit, and then the shame of, I can't believe I'm embarrassing him, can't believe he thinks so lowly of me, what was I thinking doing this? Her mom comes to the door and she expects her mom to stand up for her, and instead her mom is like, do you want to borrow something of mine? She sneaks upstairs to her mom's closet and starts going through her clothes and is just thinking that, I'm going to come downstairs and everyone's going to see what I'm wearing and just think how bad I look in this and how much better my mom looks in these clothes. How I'm ugly and she is beautiful, which are things that obviously no one's going to think. She puts on a pair of her mom's slacks, thinks about how they gap awkwardly, they don't look good on her, and come downstairs. She kind of just sits in the corner and doesn't talk to anyone, but one of the guys there is an older gentleman that she had slept with at the dinner party before in her father's closet, obviously without her parents knowing. And she refuses to look at him, refuses to make eye contact with him, and hasn't talked to him since the last dinner party, despite him calling her. She's disgusted by him. She wants nothing to do with him. And when she gets up to go to the kitchen to get a glass of wine, he texts her and goes, thanks for pretending nothing happened. And instead of being like, thank God, that's exactly what I want, she is furious. She's like, he got what he wanted and now he's just throwing me away. He thinks I'm disgusting. He thinks I was bad in bed. He hates me now, and how dare he? Like, girl, he did exactly what you wanted, was to pretend like nothing happened. But this makes her feel terrible. And she kind of like hides away until he leaves, goes back upstairs, takes off her mom's pants, and leaves. And this seemingly embarrasses her parents because she just comes downstairs like an hour after getting there without pants on and leaves. Her mom is like a little cold about it, a little upset, and her father doesn't really react emotionally, and she leaves. And she, again, is cycling through feeling shame from her outfit and anger at her dad for telling her that it was inappropriate. So after she leaves her parents' house, she goes back to the bar to confront Sigmund Freud and say, you are Sigmund Freud. She gets there, he is outside smoking, and he's like, oh, you came back. And she's like, yes. And then tries to have sex with him. She immediately is filled with lust. That's all she wants. And he deflects her. He turns her down. And this destroys her. She's like, why don't you want to? And he's like, why do you want to? She's like, no, that's not what I'm asking. I'm asking, why do you think I'm ugly? He's like, I never said that. And she's like, why do you think I'm undesirable? And he's like, I didn't say that either. And she's just throwing accusations at him as to why she thinks he doesn't want them. And he just doesn't confirm nor deny them, just asks why she thinks that. And she gets angry and she leaves. When she gets back home, she is dreading seeing JoJo because she knows that JoJo's mad at her. She saw her like crying on the couch to her boyfriend and her brother as she snuck out of the party, and just she's like, I can sneak inside and I won't have to confront her. When she gets back to the apartment, JoJo is sitting on the stairs up to her room and is like, we need to talk. I just got off the phone with my brother. He told me that he made it clear that he liked you and that you hurt him afterwards. And her main character, again, is just filled with shame and anger. And she's like, all I did was ask him to pull my hair and he wouldn't do it. Like, what's so hard about that? And JoJo's like, it's not about what you said, it's how you said it. This angers our main character because she feels like it is JoJo's fault. She starts interrogating her, asking her why she even let her be her roommate if she knew how she was. And JoJo's like, what are you talking about? Know what you're like. Her main character's like, I sleep around and I'm a terrible person and I hurt everyone and you know this, and you know what? I'll just move out. I'll just move out. I know that that's what you want. I know that you hate me. I know that you never want to see me again. And JoJo's like, what are you talking about? No. First of all, I can't afford rent without you. Why would I kick you out? And also, I like you. And our main character just refuses to hear it. She's pissed, she's hurt, she's upset, and can only think that everyone also thinks so lowly of her. While they're fighting, she just keeps thinking, why don't you love me like you love your brother? Why am I not good enough? Which is insane. They're roommates. They've barely known each other for a year. Like, of course she doesn't love her like her brother. And she's also conscious that she is making this about her despite her hurting other people. But she can't stop herself. She just needs her to validate her feelings, for her to feel wanted, for her to feel needed, for her to feel loved. She runs outside and throws up over the balcony, and JoJo is like, we can finish talking about this later. And our main character is like, no, don't worry, I'll just move out. We don't have to ever speak again, and then goes in her room. Something our main character also does is when she wakes up in the morning, she takes an inventory of what she did the day before, because she often gets drunk and does things she regrets, and also regrets basically all of her sexual encounters. She sneaks out of the house before JoJo wakes up so she doesn't have to confront her about their fight, and goes to the bar. She goes into this like side room office where bartender Sigmund Freud is, and she lies down on a couch, covers herself in a blanket, and he puts his hands on her like forehead and is like, tell me the first thing that comes to mind. And she tells the story of the first time she as a child at the opera house in the bathroom. And this happened during an opera where the like main character of the show was plagued by unrequited love. No one that he loved him back. When she gets back home, she is feeling this unrequited love from her father. She just wants to have a connection with him, so she goes up to him and tries to hug him, and he spanks her because of this. And this is where she kind of makes the connection that she uses sex and masturbation when she feels lonely as a way to create connection. During this, she also tries to get bartender Sigmund Freud to sleep with her, and he doesn't, so she masturbates in front of him. It is so uncomfortable to read. Oh my god, I cannot. The secondhand embarrassment I got from that. She also remembers her parents, like, really disapproving of her strong emotions. She would get really excited and she would want to like jump up and down and play, and her parents would give her a rubber band to put on her wrist and snap it every time she was feeling these strong emotions. So she always had to be this perfect, well-composed child. And she would see these other children having fun. She would see parents like swinging children by their arms, or a child like touching their dad's face and the dad like taking the kid's hand and kissing it and blowing raspberries into it. And she never had that. She had to be the perfectly behaved child or else she would get punished. She also remembers and is really affected by a time that her father called her a baby, like talked down to her, called her a baby because she was a child and having a meltdown in the car, and instead of consoling her in the way that a child needs, he just says, "Ugh, she's being a baby." And this is something else that really stuck with her. At this point in the book, I was also convinced that this man is Sigmund Freud. What's this man, Sigmund Freud? I don't know if he's a figment of her imagination. I don't know if she is imagining all of this. She does seem like an unreliable narrator because her perception of reality is so skewed, but I don't think skewed enough to be hallucinating. Throughout her recounting of this story, too, she keeps talking about how she's feeling these moments, and Freud is challenging those, asking her why she's feeling that way, what's leading her to have these feelings, why she feels neglected, why she feels alone. Very Sigmund Freud like. After she leaves, she checks her phone and remembers a voicemail from her mom she had gotten a few hours before saying, "Call me when you get this." She calls back her mom and dad, but they both don't pick up because it is Sunday and they're probably doing something else. But before coming to that conclusion, she does spiral a little bit and assume that they must hate her and be avoiding her calls. When she comes to her senses a little bit, back to reality, she goes to her parents' apartment, uses the spare key on the doorframe to get in, and just kind of wanders around the house waiting for them. When she eventually does get home and starts talking to them, they're saying that they're worried about her, that she was super drunk at the dinner party last night, that she was acting distant, she's been acting weird. And at first she's upset. She's like, "Why are you just now realizing that something is wrong? Something has been wrong my entire life." And she starts talking about the night that her dad spanked her for craving physical attention. And her father's like, "I don't remember that at all." And her mom was like, "I don't think your father would do this." And she knows she didn't make up this memory. She knows that this is a true memory that she had, and is just distraught by the idea that something that was so harmful to her is being dismissed and not important enough to her father for him to remember it. And she fully believes that he doesn't remember it. She doesn't think that he's pretending not to like save face or something. She then asks if her dad had ever cheated on her mom, which has no basis in reality. She just is convinced that one of his patients that he made laugh once at a session when our main character was a child must have been sleeping with her dad. I think she believes that the only physical attention that he will give is sexual. I don't know. Oedipus complex? Who knows? And her dad is like, "No, where did that come from?" And she's like, "I'm sorry, I shouldn't have brought any of this up. I'm leaving." And her parents are like, "No, we need to talk about this." And she's like, "No, we don't. I'm leaving." She gets back to her apartment, and it's evening by this point. Jojo is making some tea, and they decide to continue their conversation. Our main character is like, "Do you really want me to move out?" And Jojo is like, "No, I never said I wanted you to move out. You said you wanted to move out." And our main character is like, "But do you want me to move out?" And Jojo asks if she really means that. And our main character says, "No, I just want you to tell me that you want me to stay." So Jojo, the saint that she is, does that, indulges her in that, and goes, "I want you to stay. I like you. I like spending time with you." And that's kind of the end of that. Things are resolved. I think Jojo realizes how much of a hot, fucked up mess our main character is, and is like, "I'm just gonna leave it there. I know that she didn't mean any harm in what she's been doing." Our main character goes to her room, fantasizes about Freud a little bit, looks up techniques that Freud used, and finds the pressure therapy that he was doing to her forehead when she was talking to him earlier. And she uses this to just further convince herself, and me at that matter, that that is in fact Sigmund Freud. She then finds psychoanalysts in her area, calls one, and asks to set up an immediate appointment. This is either the middle of the night or very early the next morning. I can't remember. But it is a Monday, and she now has to go to work. She goes to her job teaching, and the entire day just keeps waiting for the psychoanalyst to call her back. Eventually she does, says that she can fit her in at 4 o'clock, and after school she goes to the session, and she sits down. She is waiting for the therapist to ask her, what brought her here, where did it start, but they just sit in silence for a little bit, and our main character just starts telling the story of the first time she went to the opera house. And the book ends there, and it is a surprisingly wholesome point where she has finally decided to get help for the things that she's been struggling with. And like unpacking her trauma. It was so wholesome at the end. I didn't expect that. What I did expect to be the ending of the book is that one of the coping mechanisms this woman has is she will run her tongue along the inside of her mouth, kind of take an inventory. She'll feel like the ridge on the roof of her mouth, her soft palate, all of her teeth. And she says, no matter what happened, my teeth would still be there. And I expected something terrible to happen that would knock all her teeth out as like a way to show the lack of stability in her life. I was waiting for that the entire time and it didn't happen, and I think that would have been fun, but I think I like the wholesome ending better, actually. I think that it was a really interesting and unique exploration of therapist parents. I feel like that is kind of a trope of the therapist parent who fucks up their own kids because they can't apply their practices to their own lives. And I thought that this was a good and fun one. I thought the exploration of emotionally neglectful parents and what it can do to a child was fun. I thought Sigmund Freud's use was interesting. I don't like that they painted him as a good man, because that man was not a good man. I know that he's the father of psychology, but he was not a cool dude. I think next I'm going to be picking up A Touch of Jen. I really do want to read Malagash. I just feel like that one will also maybe have a wholesome ending. It's about grief, and a lot of books about grief do end on a happier note despite it being a sad topic. So I finished A Touch of Jen. Unfortunately, I didn't love it. The last 20% just went in a direction I didn't love. It got like a little bit sci-fi in a way that I didn't connect with. Okay, before I get into spoilers, just wanted to give you a heads up that they're coming. So if you do want to read this book, which I do recommend if you like a lit fic and a little bit of like a monster in the book, this could be good for you. Otherwise, you might have the same feelings I do. A Touch of Jen has a lot of characters, so keep that in mind when you start reading this book. I say that because I read a lot of books where it's like 2 characters, 3 characters, because they're just fully in their own world. Remy is dating Alicia. Remy used to be co-workers with Jen, and both Remy and Alicia are obsessed with Jen. Jen is dating this man named Horace and is best friends with this girl, Carla. Also, Remy and Alicia's roommate, his name is Jake. There is also a woman named Andrea who is important later in the book. She is friends with Carla. Okay, so now that we got that out of the way. This book is split up into 3 parts, and right off the bat, part 2 is my favorite. If part 2 was this entire book, I would have been okay with that. Part 1 is about the relationship with Remy and Alicia. They are, I want to say, like late 30s and just like so unestablished in their lives. They don't particularly like each other, it seems. They both work in food service and don't like their jobs, but aren't trying to do anything new. And just, especially for Remy, everything bad that's happening is not his fault. Everything is happening to him, you know? Remy and Alicia are so strange, and I cannot understate more how strange they are, both as like people in social settings and also in their relationship. Remy hates Jake for absolutely no reason. He is like the perfect roommate. The worst thing he does is like knock on Remy's door to be like, look at this meme I just found that I think you would like. He's like written as the like golden retriever boyfriend archetype of man. At some point, Jen stopped working at the same like brunch restaurant place that Remy did. And since then, he and Alicia obsessively watch her social media. I don't know if she's like an influencer or like a wannabe influencer. I'm kind of getting like wannabe influencer from her, which here I am on a YouTube channel. I can't hate. Not that I want to be perceived that much. If she posts something new, they'll like screenshot it and send it to the other person or just mindlessly scroll through her pictures despite seeing them all the second they come out. Most of Jen's Instagram is her traveling, and then those like self-help hippie type manifestation self-love quotes, which I love that for you. If that is your jam, I love that for you. She also quotes a lot from this book called The Apple Bush, which becomes important later, so keep that in mind. Alicia does this thing where she pretends to be Jen, and Remy goes along with it for the most part. She'll like talk in a way that she thinks Jen talks, and dresses in a way she thinks Jen does. And this is not just like a silly little thing they do as a joke. This is like full chest, full serious, and extends beyond like conversation, and like it is sexual, which is so creepy. Do not role play as a person in real life. That's insane. Don't do that. Eventually, Alicia and Remy run into Jen while she's working at like the Apple store. I can't remember if this was like an intentional run-in, but I don't think it was. While they're there, Remy is just so incredibly awkward and just so uncomfortably strange. And Jen is being really nice to him and invites him and Alicia to come to the Hamptons with her and her boyfriend and some of her friends for a surfing weekend. Alicia automatically on board. She is infatuated with Jen in a unhealthy way and just wants to spend time with her. Remy, on the other hand, is like not super on board to begin with. They leave. Remy is like going over his head how awkward that interaction was, and Alicia is just excited. This is the first time Alicia meets Jen. She didn't know Jen while she was working with Remy. I don't think that her and Remy were together at the moment. And so Remy immediately is like, she's changed. That's not how she used to be. She's a different person now. We used to be so close, and that was so strange. And he hasn't texted her or talked to her in any capacity in years, I want to say. Eventually, he texts her, kind of inquiring about the weekend, and the conversation doesn't really go there. But unbeknownst to him, Alicia, as him, talks to him about the surf weekend and kind of commits them to it. Remy is not on board. He does not want to do this. I don't know whether it's that he knows that he overemphasized his relationship with Jen and is embarrassed that Alicia is finding this out, or if he is actually unaware of how much he exaggerated this and truly does believe that Jen is different and weird now, and he doesn't want to spend time with her because of how different she is. Anyways, they end up going up to the Hamptons for the weekend. We find out that this is her boyfriend's parents' like vacation house that they're staying at, and the boyfriend is a big surfer. I can't remember his name. Horace, the boyfriend, is like a big surfer, so he is excited to show everyone how to do it, and then just like a stereotypical surfer himbo type. The first day they go surfing, Alicia catches on like fairly easily and absolutely loves it. And Remy is not on the same boat. He keeps falling. He's offended that he was given such a long board, even though he like doesn't know anything about surfing. He is just not with it. He doesn't want Horace to help him. Horace will be like, okay, we're gonna practice paddling, and Remy's like, I know how to paddle, you dumb, stupid idiot. When like in reality, all Horace is doing is being incredibly kind and helpful, and Remy sees every kindness as an attack on him. Jen is also just not acting in a way that Remy remembers. He remembers at the restaurant them like making fun of people together and teasing each other and just generally being flirty. And that's not what is happening at all here. Remy complains that Jen is being too nice to him and that she's fake now. And Alicia's like, why are you mad she's being nice? That's weird. Well, at this beach house, it's not just Horace that Remy takes offense to everything that is said to him. It is everyone there. Like, there's a point where Horace, recruits Remy to help make breakfast. And he makes his breakfast, it's eggs. He is not confident that he made them well. And when he gives them to the other people staying there, one of the girls is like, "These eggs are great, Remy." And he's like, "Don't patronize me." And he says this out loud to them. This is not like internal monologue. And he's just like this the entire weekend they're there. Throughout the weekend, Remy takes every excuse he can to get alone with Jen in a very creepy way. And so, like, while he's surfing, he might see that Jen is taking a break. So he's like, "I want to take a break," so he can sit alone with her on the beach. And he just does stuff like this over and over and over again. It's so creepy. It's so uncomfortable. And he is completely unaware. He even kind of convinces himself that she wants to spend some alone time with him. Jen and all of her friends also speak in this, like, new age hippie way. And because Alicia is so obsessed with them, she starts mimicking this. And this is a quote from Jen. This isn't from Alicia, but I want to give you an example of the way that they speak. "Manifesting is real too. Energy speaks. It lets the universe know that it can communicate with you. And when your greatest desires are possible, that's how you reach your consummate result, the ultimate version of yourself." The point is, says Jen, shading her face so she can make better eye contact with Remy, is that you have to be willing to accept the signifiers directing you towards your destiny. And you have to abandon the mindset that you, Remy, are so married to. The paranoid, "the world is out to get me and failure is inevitable" mindset. The truth is, the universe conspires to bless us. And that's just how they all talk the entire weekend. They don't talk like real people, and this is all based off of The Apple Bush, a book that they all read and all constantly push on Alicia and Remy. At this point, I thought that they were going to join a cult. I thought that that's what this book was going to be. That's not what this book is. Alicia wants to be friends with Jen so badly, but she is just so strange, and Jen is not nice. There's a point where they are all doing karaoke in the living room, and Jen sings Material Girl. And afterwards, Alicia says, "That was so good, you're such Material Girl." And Jen goes, "What are you talking about? What does that mean?" And Alicia goes, "Because you're real. You're right in front of me. You are a material that's real and tangible." And Jen goes, "That's weird to say," and like walks away. And she's not wrong, but she's clearly just like a strange girl that doesn't know how to talk to people. Later, they're all outside smoking, and Alicia doesn't smoke, but she's just excited to be invited. And one of Jen's friends is like, "Wow, the relationship that you have with Remy is so intense. You must have had a really fucked up childhood, haven't you?" And like that, imagine saying that to a stranger. In response to this, Alicia is like, "Oh my god, how did you know? My mom actually thinks I'm brain damaged because I was so incredibly bulimic as a child that it stunted my development." And then she kind of laughs to break the tension, but it like truly 100% just kills the vibe of the entire evening. And yeah, the way Alicia was talking about it was way too like nonchalant and uncomfortable. She talked about having to be hospitalized. She talks about how she was like the youngest bulimic patient the center had ever seen, like brags about it. And she also talks about how her mom used to take videos of her to show her and be like, "You look awful and terrible, and you should keep these as a reminder of how awful and terrible you look." And Alicia brings this up like it's a funny thing, and she's like, "No, she was caring and trying to help." Fully ruins the vibe. Everyone is like, "Oh my god, Alicia is so weird." But she didn't even bring it up first. This random girl who she met 2 days ago was like, "You probably had a fucked up childhood, right? I can sense these things." And when she validates that she's the weird one, I mean, she is, but still. This is a wildly uncomfortable read. Oh my god. And I expect this kind of stuff from like a book about obsession. Oh my god, I have to keep putting it down because the secondhand embarrassment I'm getting from this book is truly painful. Later that night, Remy hears knocking, and Alicia isn't there, and he's freaked out. He's looking around, he goes outside, he sees the pool, there's like ripples in there, like someone was just recently in there, but there's no one there. He looks behind a bush and he sees like a creepy face staring back at him. So he runs inside, he hears a scream, and it's coming from Jen in Horace's room. Alicia is there sopping wet, and Jen is screaming about how she was trying to choke her. Remy is like, oh my god, I'm so sorry. Alicia sleepwalks sometimes. She wasn't actually trying to hurt you. And Horace is like, yeah, I don't think she was trying to hurt you. Like, she seemed out of it. And Jen is like, she was trying to choke me. I woke up and her hands were around my neck. And for the first time ever, Jen is being reasonable and everyone around her is not. Jen is understandably upset and she gets cruel. She's like, I was trying to be nice. I was inviting my creepy ex-coworker who's clearly obsessed with me and his girlfriend who's a complete stranger to me to this, and they weren't even supposed to come. I don't think she says that, but it's kind of implied that she invited them to be nice and they weren't actually supposed to take her up on it. And at this point, Alicia is sobbing and she's like, I wasn't choking you. I wasn't meaning to choke you. And then she starts sobbing harder and she's like, I'm not a stranger. Like, that's the thing that is upsetting Alicia the most. That Jen says she is a stranger, which she is, and not the fact that she tried to sleep choke her out. It's the last full day at the beach house. I kept saying a weekend, I think it was a full week. And Remy decides to give it one more chance at surfing, and he finally catches a wave, and he's like, I understand why everyone's obsessed with this. And as he's surfing, he sees a guy who's kind of in his way. He could avoid him, but he's like too close to Remy. And instead of being a normal person, Remy is so upset that this man is like ruining his vibe that he purposely falls on top of him. That's insane. Everyone rushes over. It's clear that Remy did this on purpose, but he's like bleeding. It did not do him any good. And him, Alicia, and Jen decide to go back to the beach house to make sure he's okay. They get there and they're like looking at his pupils, making sure he's not concussed and like bandaging him up. And they start drinking, the perfect thing to do when you're concussed. And Jen is super standoffish with Alicia, who tried to choke her out the night before. Understandable. And Remy is just glad that Jen is there. He's fully ignoring Alicia. He's been embarrassed by Alicia this entire time and been telling her and saying that she's embarrassing him. Eventually, Alicia leaves to go back to surfing, and Remy and Jen are chatting, they're talking. She's not being particularly nice to him, and every memory that he brings up from when they worked together, she's like, that's not true. Like, Remy will bring up that they talked about how they hated kids. And Jen would be like, I never said I hated kids. You hate kids. I don't think either one of them are particularly believable, but I do think that Remy's obsession with Jen is clouding how he's remembering these things. When they are alone, they are continuously drinking. They're having beers, they're having whiskey, and they are adequately drunk. Everyone after surfing decided to go out for like happy hour drinks and dinner, and Remy and Jen decide to stay in. And Jen makes a move on him and they start making out. And Remy is like, he's excited. He's wanted to do this since he met Jen, but like not fully into it. And Jen is like, what, do you not have an open relationship? And Remy's like, what gave you that idea? She's like, you kind of insinuated it when we were texting. And these were texts that Alicia sent, not Remy. That night when Alicia and Remy are, in bed talking afterwards, Alicia's like, did you and Jen hook up? You were alone for a long time. And Remy's like, no, why did you insinuate we were in an open relationship? Also, we just made out. And instead of being upset that he cheated on her, she's like, tell me every detail. Very strange. While they're chatting, they hear Jen and Horace having very loud sex right next door. And Remy is pissed. He's like, she is punishing me for not hooking up with her, for rejecting her. So he goes in their room, busts open the door, and starts yelling at them. Oh my, it was one of the most uncomfortable scenes I read in this entire book. He's like yelling at Horace and was like, did she coach you to be that loud? Why are you letting her punish me? And yelling at Jen and being like, why are you doing this to me? And Horace is like, what is going on? He was like, can everyone just calm down? I think we should talk about this in the morning. And he's just like, we had an encounter today and it didn't go how she wanted to, so she's punishing me. And Jen is like, he's overreacting about what our encounter was. and just vibes are off. Eventually, I want to say basically everyone wakes up and kind of shuttles everyone to their room. The next morning, they all wake up and they go home, and it's strange. It's awkward. Once they get back, Remy and Alicia are talking about how strange it is that Jen didn't block them and how she obviously hates them now, and she didn't block them to punish them so that they can see how great her life is. And Remy has this totally normal thought that I'm sure we've all had. That's like, she can take me out of her life, but she can never make my girlfriend stop role playing her in bed. Jesus Christ, dude, go to therapy. While they were at the Hamptons, the girls were talking about how they're artists, and Alicia wanted to feel included, so she made up this idea that she had for this like sensory deprivation tank, except it's not a sensory deprivation tank because it's not salt water, essentially. And she begins working on that project when she gets home. She buys a hot tub off someone on, I'm assuming, the Facebook Marketplace, picks it up in a really sketchy, like, abandoned warehouse, and she goes to Lowe's and starts just buying wood to make a dome to kind of go over this hot tub to make it dark and private, and she starts setting it up in the, like, alcove of their apartment. At this point, I expected a plot point to be that this tub of water inside this apartment was going to fall through the floor. That doesn't happen either. Eventually, she does make this tank, and she likes to spend time in there all alone. It's pitch black in there. No one can really see in, and she just spends time in there. That doesn't come up again until later, but it is important for like half a page at the end of the book. This is going to sound really disjointed throughout this review, but so much happens just to show how awkward they are around other people. That has nothing to do with the plot, so I'm skipping it. But there's like a lot to skip. Alicia, in her quest to be more like Jen, decides to go to this expensive skincare store that she knows Jen goes to because she saw the bottles on the counter at the Hampton beach house and also from the background of Instagram pictures. She buys all these products and sees that they're hiring, so she decides to apply. She eventually gets accepted while she's training. She's talking to the other girl. She says that her name is Alicia, but she goes by Jen, that it's her chosen name. And everyone's like, oh my god, that's so cool that you're following your destiny in that way. They all clearly talk in the same way that the other girls did in this new age tarot card astrology way. I don't know how else to describe it. Eventually, Jen comes into this skincare place and immediately comes in swinging. She's like, what are you doing here? And Alicia's like, I work here. Anything I can help you with? And for some reason, her coworker calls her Jen. And this freaks Jen out because her name is Alicia, and she's like, oh my god, you're so creepy, why are you trying to be me? This is insane. Horace says that they're gonna get a restraining order, and they storm out. And her coworkers are like, what was that? And Alicia goes, oh, just some girl who's obsessed with me. That is the last line we hear from Alicia, and I love that. That was such a choice. The reason this is the last line we hear from Alicia is because on her bike ride home, her bike chain snaps, which this was foreshadowed at the beginning of the book, and she dies. We learn this when the police come to Remy. The cops come by and tell him that Alicia died on her bike ride home and that he needs to come identify the body. And Remy is just like in shock, and he doesn't want to get in the back of the police car. And when they're telling him like it's hard to find the place where you have to identify the body, it's very strange, we should just take you, it's easier. And Remy's like, I'm the family of the deceased and you're supposed to be nice to me. And the police are like, okay, fine, go to the hospital. He goes to the emergency room and he walks up to the desk and he remembers that in movies only family members are allowed to see patients. So he goes, I'm looking for Alicia, she's my wife. I believe her name is Alicia Small. I could be wrong, but it's something like that. When they look up the name, there's no patients, but when they look up Alicia Smalls, there is someone. So this woman gives Remy the room number and he goes to find her. And he's like, I knew it was a mistake. She's not dead. Something bad just happened and she's in the hospital. So he goes to this room. His Alicia is not there. It's a child named Alicia Smalls. And he's like looking under blankets. He's looking under the bed. He's looking in the closets for her. And they eventually call someone who escorts him out. And he goes to a different desk, asks where she is. So they take him down to the morgue, but it's like a busy day there, lots of death. So there's just cots like lining the walls, and he sees Alicia there. And this is like incredibly distressing because he's convinced she's not actually dead. And there are two, I'm assuming, nurses down there who are like, oh my god, I'm so sorry, it's not supposed to be like this. And Remy's like having a little bit of a breakdown and is like, can you make sure she's dead? She's clearly dead. She has a dent in her head from where she hit the dumpster. And they like check her pulse. She's dead. He's in shock, like in a trance. He goes back up and the police are there and he still hasn't identified the body. So they show him pictures of her, even though he just saw her actual body being like mistreated, being just left out in the hallway. He identifies the body, he goes home. Roommate Jake is being incredible. He is being wildly understanding, and we find out that roommate Jake is being such a good man. We love Jake. We are a Jake stan. And he's talking about how Remy needs to go to a support group and that this really helped when his mom died. We didn't know that Jake's mom had died before this. It was some like mugging gone wrong type thing. But Jake is like, these helped me the most. They were fantastic. So Remy goes to one kind of to appease him. And when he's there, he kind of gets pulled aside by this woman afterwards and they go and get a drink. And she's incredibly intense and just telling him about like destiny and everything happens for a reason type speak without saying those exact things. And Remy's like, yeah, I met a new girl who I think will make me feel better, talking about Jen. And she's like, no, that's not going to work. You're going to have to date someone who has been through the same thing as you because no one else will understand you. It becomes very clear that she's flirting with Remy. Remy has no idea. After speaking for, I believe, hours, he eventually goes back home. He decides he's not going to another support group. It's not for him. Jake tells him that when he was first dealing with the grief of losing his mom, he also downloaded this app that you text your deceased loved one and they send back just a random text that they had sent to you once. It's just recycling the old text. And Jake said it was helpful at first, but after a while it was clear it wasn't that person, so he gave up on it. And Remy gets this and keeps getting random texts from her that make no sense. It's not helping him at all, but he keeps using it and keeps getting these random texts and is getting frustrated that this is not a real person talking back to him. During this time, Remy keeps hearing sounds in his apartment, tapping, scraping, the sounds of people eating, and it's not Jake doing these things. And Remy wakes Jake up in the middle of the night to be like, did you hear that? Did you hear that? Like, we didn't do this. Like, this plate wasn't right here. It was somewhere else on the counter, and there was only one cup and not two. And Jake is kind of just like, you are losing it, man. You are losing it. I think you need to talk to someone. And Remy's like, no, I'm not crazy. But in his mind, he's like, I think that this is Alicia coming into the house and moving stuff around. Carla, who was on the Hamptons trip, kind of starts asserting herself into Remy's life after Alicia dies. She's the one who was like, you had a fucked up childhood, right? And they start hanging out a little bit, and she is like, this happened. The universe made this happen because you are meant to be with Jen. And this is self-serving because she wants to be with Horace. She thinks that she's better suited for Horace. And she slept with Horace once, and it made Jen incredibly angry despite the fact that they're in an open relationship. To facilitate this, Carla tricks Jen into meeting Remy at a bar and leaves them there together. And they're talking, they're chatting. Jen is being mean per usual. She's telling him that he is creepy. She's not wrong. and that he's been obsessed with her. Also not wrong. I say Jen's being mean because what she's saying is mean, but she's also being truthful. Eventually, they get pretty messed up. They end up going back to Remy's apartment and they sleep together. And Remy is like, this is everything I imagined it to be. Girl, your girlfriend died like a week and a half ago. Anyways, he also lost his job because one of his customers was like, I'm allergic to peanuts. And Remy's like, okay. And then gave her food. There was no peanuts in it, but there were legumes. And she's like, I told you I was deathly allergic to legumes. And he's like, no, you didn't. You said you were allergic to peanuts. And she's like, peanuts are legumes. And Remy gets fired over this. After they sleep together, Jen texts him and is essentially like, this was a mistake. I did this because my self-esteem was really low. We shouldn't talk anymore. I don't think we're good as friends. And Remy's pissed because that's a terrible message to receive. And texts her back, but nothing really comes of that. Maybe that night, maybe a couple nights later, Remy hears the tapping in his apartment again. And this time he opens the door and there's this giant bug-like creature with like vaguely human attributes that he sees, and just it attacks him. Remy is fighting for his life, stabbing it with whatever he can find, and eventually he scares it away. I believe he turns on the lights, and this thing does not like light. So it scuttles away. Anywhere where it's stabbed with, like, it was a letter opener, I believe, that Remy had, there's like black goo everywhere. There's like the creature bit his arm, so he's bleeding. Right after this happens, he calls Carla because she is the hippiest of the hippies of that group and is like, you need to come over right now. She comes over, she sees all the stuff. She's like, this is exactly what happened in the apple bush. The universe is pointing you towards your destiny, but someone is standing in the way, and it manifested as this creature who is trying to stop you from fulfilling your greatest self. Remy is like, that sounds right. A giant bug attacked me. Carla calls in her friend who's an expert. Her name is Andrea. Andrea shows up. It's the girl that was flirting with him from the grief group. He's kind of like, how do you know each other? They're very vague, but it turns out Andrea is an expert on these manifestations of people blocking your destiny. So she starts doing all this thing. She gets samples of the black goop on the ground. She like takes a hatchet and slices into the wall like a pattern that repels these things. She tells him that this creature has gotten so strong that he is in danger and his roommate is in danger and they can't stay around here. He's probably too strong already and can manifest outside of the space, but might as well be safe and go away anyways. She also says that the only way to stop this thing is to get past whatever is blocking him from reaching his destiny, and this creature will vaguely resemble whatever is blocking him from this. And the next morning when Jake shows up, he's all concerned about what happened. Remy explains to him that he's not safe, but he looks and sounds insane. And Jake says this. He says that you really need to talk to someone. Remy is like, no, that's not true. I'm fine. I'm fine. You are not safe. You are in danger. Remy is not doing hot at the moment, clearly. And he gets absolutely wasted at a bar. And he hallucinates Alicia. She communicates to him through his phone with the texts from the, like, grief app that he got that's supposed to help him get over her death. And it's very vague because it all has to come from texts that she had sent in the past. But she kind of communicates that he has all the pieces he needs to figure out what's going on and to fix it. And kind of tells her that he needs to pay attention to what he's hearing because these are all signifiers that'll help him realize what the universe wants him to do. And he's going through these signifiers. Jake is on a date with a girl, so he assumes that has to do with dating, just all these things, and he decides that his destiny is to be with Jen. And the thing in the way is Horace, so he needs to kill Horace. And the signifiers are pointing to this too, because then he will have the grief of losing a partner and be able to connect with Remy, just like Andrea had said at their first meeting. He's like, this all makes sense. Horace had also mentioned that he destroyed all the security cameras around his apartment because he doesn't like being surveilled. And Remy's like, that's another signifier that I can get away with it. Carla shows up. I can't exactly remember why. And Remy is like, I figured it out. I have a plan. I'm going to go do it. And Carla's like, let me help. And he's just kind of like, she could get in the way, especially because she wants to date Horace. But I think that's okay. And they decide to go to Jen and Horace's apartment because Jen will not be there. She's supposed to be going upstate with someone else. As they're trying to get there, this creature is following them. And as they are getting close to the apartment, Remy locks Carla out so that she gets destroyed by this monster. He uses her as bait to get a head start because this monster has to eat her and it'll give him time. When he's in the hallway, he can't remember what room Remy and Alicia live in, but as he's trying to figure it out, the only other apartment on that floor opens the door to chat with him, ask what all that noise was. So he knows it's not that room. It has to be the only other one. He knocks on the door. Jen comes out, and he's like, I need to speak to Horace. And she's like, he's in the bath right now. He can't speak. And he's like, I fear I'm a danger to myself. You said that if I was ever in real danger, you would be my friend. Can you let me in? And so he comes in. They're talking. Jen is like on edge a little bit, and Remy comes to the conclusion that Horace isn't actually here. She said that because she is afraid of him and doesn't want him to know that they are alone together. And he starts trying to reassure her, I would never do anything to hurt you. We are meant to be together, blah, blah, blah. He hears the tapping again. Jen hears it as well. And the creature busts through the door and comes in, and he realizes that no, the creature doesn't look like Horace. Horace isn't the one that's in the way. The creature looks like Jen. So this creature starts going after Remy. He's completely ignoring Jen, and he realizes that when he hurts Jen, he hurts the creature. So he starts choking her. The creature's like incapacitated, but he can't stand to look at how Jen looks when she's being strangled. So he eventually drags her over to the bathtub and drowns her. And this kills the creature. He's like, I did it. Very cool. He takes Jen's body and stuffs it in a suitcase, takes a Uber back to his apartment, has the poor Uber driver help carry this dead body filled suitcase up to his apartment. They make it into the apartment. He thanks the Uber driver, tips him a bunch of money. We love a man who helps service workers. And he takes Jen's body out, puts her in the weird hot tub thing, which at this point smells disgusting, by the way. And he puts on a robe, he sits down, he watches TV for a couple hours, and he hears something moving around. He hears someone come and sit next to him, and it is Alicia. Jen had turned into Alicia in this little hut thing, and it's the version of Alicia that pretends to be Jen. And Remy's like, perfect, you're back. I knew this was going to happen. And the book ends. I fear I did not like the sci-fi element. I wish he killed Horace and then it came out. I wish that all of the creepy bug stuff was dropped. And I wish that he killed Horace and got arrested and came to his senses that he was in a form of psychosis. But no, everything he was feeling was true and real and happening. He just also happened to be a shitty person. Yeah, so I didn't like the sci-fi element, and it was too long. This book was too long, and I love a long book. I really do. There are so many aspects that I left out. And if you read this book, you're probably like, why aren't you talking about this? Because it helped for character development, but not actually plot. This book is very much about how weird and shitty Remy is. With that being said, 3 stars feels too low, but 4 stars is most definitely too high. So I think I am going to stick with 3 stars for this. But if it sits and I change my mind after a while, I will definitely let you guys know. With all that being said, I think I would have enjoyed this book more if I didn't read it with the intention of talking about it and making a video about it. Because of how much of the story was not needed in the plot, it made it really hard to summarize and go through with you guys. Because I was self-editing, figuring out what to put in there, what to take out, all of that. And I think reading through it, knowing that I was going to have to give a summary at the end, made it less enjoyable. Anyways, now it is time to read Malagash, and I will check in with y'all once I finish that. I finished Malagash. 5 stars. Easy 5 stars. This is the best book I read in this reading vlog, which did take me more than a week. That's okay. It happens. Nobody's perfect. Everybody has those days. Everybody gets that way. 5 stars. A very easy 5 stars. This book, first and foremost, is about grief and about how you experience grief losing someone close to you, and how the grief that people around you affects you in your relationships. I think you should read this book. It's short. You could read it in an hour or two. It's a very quick read. And it's just so good. I can definitely see it being a difficult read if you've lost someone close to you, especially due to like a long-term illness, like you actually watching someone die over time. That it could be a very hard read for that. So this book is mainly about Sunday and how she is feeling and reacting to her father's death that she knows is coming very soon. She is coping by secretly recording her father in conversations that he has with not only her, but private conversations with her brother and her mom. She is meticulously categorizing these recordings, taking little sound bites of phrases she likes, things that he says a lot, categorizing them, and then integrating them into a virus she's creating that she's going to release and leave it to infiltrate computers all over the world. It's a non-malicious virus. It's not going to delete files or like break up a computer or anything like that. It's just a way for her father to live on forever. Because it seems like this family is non-religious. They don't, at least the father doesn't believe that anything happens after death. He believes that you die, and that's throughout the story we see Sunday go from isolating herself to becoming closer with her younger brother. And this happens when she records her brother and father talking without her there. And the brother is just saying these things like, why is nobody else crying? I wish Sunday and I were friends again. And Sunday kind of comes to the realization that the way that she is grieving is doing a disservice to the rest of the family. She's isolating herself. She's stopped acting the way she did before, which is very common in grief like this. But in isolating herself, she's hurting more than just herself. So she starts showing her brother some of these recordings and teaching him about coding and hacking and all these things. And it's just a very sweet moment of connection. This is also a really great view of grief from a younger child. I don't know quite how old she is, but there is a point where it's mentioned that the grandmother is so glad that the father and his brother were able to reconcile. And Sunday goes, that's the only clue that anything had ever been wrong between them, and kind of learning more about her father in his death. Sunday keeps this virus a secret from her brother. He knows about all the recordings, and at night he'll lay on the ground and listen to them after the father passes. And Sunday eventually tells him about the virus. When he hears about it, he goes, won't he be lonely? So together they start transcribing Sunday, Simon, and the mom, and the uncles, and everyone into this virus as well, so they can all live together forever with their father. When the family finds out the father had passed in his sleep, they're told by a nurse at the hospital. Apparently they'd been trying to call them, but they didn't have service. They didn't get the call. And the mom keeps her composure. She's with her children. And the nurse goes, "Let me get the doctor. He wants to talk to you." And she goes, "Okay." And then she goes into the bathroom with the kids, closes herself in a stall, and just collapses to the floor sobbing. It is the first time they've seen her lose her composure. When they get back to the house, the mom just fully isolates herself. She closes herself inside her room, and she doesn't come out for the remainder of the book. This is a total switch from how she's been throughout the story, and it feels like she didn't let herself start grieving until he was gone, where in comparison the kids have been grieving throughout this process, and they have this outlet almost to let them work through their grieving with these recordings. They try to help the mom by sitting outside her bedroom door, and they will sing her songs and play recordings, but the mom doesn't come out of her room for the rest of the book. And the kids have so much compassion for this in a way that I don't think I would have at their age. They are not completely abandoned. They are staying with the grandmother who is taking care of the mom as well as the children. And the children have this newfound freedom as they no longer have the strict schedule and routine of going to the hospital every day. So they take this time to build their friendship and relationship more. The kids just start riding their bikes everywhere. They go to a vineyard and eat some grapes, even though they're too sour. They go to the shore and try to dig for clams. They just spend their time getting closer to each other and building their relationship in their grief, as well as finishing the virus and eventually sending it out. Anyways, I'm going to go read the author's note and probably have it ruin me fully. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see y'all next time.